What's up, world? What's up, Zion? It's Prince Easy coming at you again, once more, as usual. Well, I do have a couple slides that I want to share with you. Right? It's gonna be brief and dense. So, I captured this, as you can see, 11th April 2026. From then, I have seen drones, underwater drones, and a whole ship from the Germans. Well, you tell me. We're gonna cycle back to this. Well, more truth is coming out. Hmm? Well, it is a fact, right? These emergency measures, right? They forced governments to take up without the consent of their peoples, has slowly and dramatically led to centralization of power away from sovereign nations. And of course, many other forces working in tandem, right? These human rights organizations and NGOs or such, whose purpose really, right, even the monetary systems, is to undermine the sovereignty of nations. I don't know when or how that became acceptable, but that is just the reality. Well, the truth is much more confusing. Let me just say that, right? But I shall unpack what I have found. So in the 80s, 90s, and these people were able to do this, oh really? Cleveland. And most people like to say it's lost knowledge. No, it's not lost. It's rather suppressed. And the only reason I can find for it being suppressed is that it actually benefits people right now as we speak. This looks like an Egyptian temple, straight up. This is from Brazil, Sao Paulo, with trams and everything. Brothers and sisters, these lies have to stop. Because from the evil ones, this is power. Well, if the whole situation happened, and if you have seen the video of the guy making that dash, you would know that this pic here should not exist. Even this one here, right? This pic was taken from a person standing, not even sitting, standing. They need to do better psyops. So, this recently came out. I done suspected this a long time ago, right? But I was trying to tie it somewhere else. And that somewhere else is that, right? You remember a couple of months back, there was a storm in Russia, and there was a lot of AI videos circulating around. Basically, the purpose was to, I don't know, exaggerate the severity of the storm and stuff, right? And the other country I can think of as of now, I think it is Zambia or Zimbabwe, I don't know, one of the two, which has been suffering with droughts, right, south of Tanzania. These are weather modification campaigns. Yeah. Well, lick your wounds and continue. We did have a conversation about this reality a long time ago. And I stipulated that the only way they can pull off an effective attack is if they do that, what they did. The gift of Apollo, they say. With their horns and everything. The cure for everything. And it just vanished from Libya. Okay. Look what the Igbos were building. There are pyramids in places that you wouldn't even expect. For instance, Somalia. There's more pyramids in Somalia apparently than there are in Egypt. Actually, Egypt has less pyramidal structures. Nigeria is up there. Mali, if I'm not mistaken. But not the bigger one. Now, is this that, what do they call it? Comparative theory or something, right? Where they lay out and basically find the similarities between the mythos of the gods of many cultures, which somehow end up looking like the stories from the Bible. Well, these things are all hidden under the veil of racism. And as long as that veil stays up, there will be a lot of confusion and suffering. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality, brothers and sisters, right? Coalition of black nationalist groups might be the first steps toward the real Mau Mau in America, the beginning of a true black revolution, to prevent a rise of the of a messiah who could unify and electrify the militant black nationalist movement. Malcolm X might have been such a messiah. He is the martyr of the movement today. Martin Luther King, Stottley. Well, no disrespect, but there's a lot of agenting going around in the Black American community, just like in the African sphere of politics. A lot of individuals are working against our interests. It's funny, right? So, you can look at the headline, and we're going to have a read, right? The national response to Richard M. Nixon's Black Capitalism Initiative, a success of domestic detente. This is what it reads. Richard M. Nixon viewed and controlled Black Power movement as a major threat to internal security of the United States. During the late 1960s and early 1970s, to address this situation, Nixon developed his Black Capitalism Initiative as a domestic version of his widely publicized foreign policy initiative of Detente, which sought to contain the power of Soviet Union and China. Moreover, just as Nixon and Henry Kissinger linked concessions associated with Detente to Soviet and Chinese behavior modification, the Nixon presidency offered African Americans the notion of black capitalism as an incentive to move away from notions of burn baby burn. Ambrose, 1989. Besides briefly explaining the nuances of Nixon's black capitalism initiative, this article will focus on the national discourse generated by this political maneuver. The evidence suggests that although Nixon did not achieve his institutional goals or campaign promises in brackets related to black capitalism, he did indeed achieve his larger ideological goal of subverting African American radicalism. What came out recently. And all I have to say to this is nobody wants to kill Trump, right? And if they were to do it, there are ways to do it than bullets and stuff, right? This notion of security, in my view, has been utterly shattered by the very presence of biological weapons and energy weapons. It's over, right? That illusion of security and safety for me is broken. So when these people come out here and do stuff like this, I know it's a game. I know for a fact it's a game. Okay, I do not have to assume or know. So I just wait to see how it plays out, to see their goals, or try to predict what they're going after or for. And Trump is not rocking the boat in any way, as he was talking about in the campaign days, right? Talking about I'm gonna drain the swamp and stuff. When was the last time you heard the word swamp? Because that was all a ruse to get you to participate. But you didn't really choose Trump, no. So, the so-called NGOs and the Human Rights Watch are back at it, right? Kicking a dog while it's down, right? As they have painted the picture, right? Because the notion now out there exists that Mali is done. Basically, that's what they are implying. They're not saying it directly because they would have to provide proof, but rather it is done. It has been shown to be weak and now it needs, right, reinforcements and stuff. Right? They don't talk about what is happening in Ukraine over there with the snatchers and stuff. No, they don't write articles about that. I don't know why they want people to continue participating in this nonsense. This Ariel Gorosi, senior Sahel. The jokes almost write themselves at this point. Dubious. But that's not the case. Right? And it's unfortunate that the true story is finding it hard to come up of how actually the events unfolded on the 25th, if I'm not mistaken, right? They saw them coming. You can't have such a big ass ambush like that without being seen. You're using motorcycles. This was just another day at the job, right? We have seen attacks at the waves containing more than 100 personnel storming an area. And this is just another day at the job. Right now, there are more things surrounding this whole situation, but still, dubious, they say. So anyway, that's some geopolitics for you. So, right, um, as far as what is happening in Eastern Europe, I don't really like to repeat myself. The same pattern of behavior will yield the same results. The same with the Eastern Eurasia and what is happening there. It should be obvious by now what they want to happen, right? So, to end up, I've been low-key following up on car accidents and try to understand, right, these severe occurrences, so to speak, and why they occur and how can they be mitigated, because indeed there is mitigation. So I have in front of me here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points. And of course they come from real life conversations, right, with drivers, by professional drivers, not just I'm driving to the store, honey, do you want me to pick you up something? Not those. I'm talking about long haulage, community buses and stuff, right? So these are the things I could primarily extract, right? So we have road rage, right? It shouldn't be a surprise that the only way a driver can express is by using his feet and his hands, right? The pedals and the steering wheel, respectively. So if it is anger, then it is gonna be these appendages that are gonna be used, right? And in my opinion, the most frustrated people are the ones that spend the most time in roads. Those would be the bus drivers, right? The communal bus drivers, right? Especially here in Tanzania, right? And I know this might be the experience in other countries also, right? I think you reach a certain level of frustration. I first believe that these are the most frustrated people in the nation, right? We need to really, and of course you might say it needs self-control and stuff. Yes, but the provocations, they become passive aggressive, right? Because they can't enact, right, using these appendages. So they're in this containment mode, so to speak. and this frustration bubbling up inside, right? That's why we see sometimes they do extreme things, right? Why? Because their ego is somewhat bruised in the process, right? So it is a real thing. Frustrations are unavoidable, right? So what can be done? What should be advised to help, especially young drivers, not to do reckless things, right? To have this calm and cool and chill while, right? I've heard these people talking about running people over like it's nothing, right? They talk about it like it's nothing, right? I ever heard say, if somebody ran me over and broke my leg, I'd rather them just back up and run me over completely to just kill me, right? Because this suffering will be too much for the family. You understand? Right? And these are real conversations, by the way, and real views. So, number 2, lights, right? Lights, they have become a problem. High beam, low beam. That switch has become, I don't know, too far to reach or something, right? Number 3, a safe space to play, right? I believe that some of the frustration and the competitiveness can be released by providing a safe space for them to I don't know, safely do reckless things. There's no other way, to like racing and stuff, right? If not so, then they will do these things in public roads, and it's not okay, right? Number 4 being exhaustion and drinking, right? Exhaustion. Why? I think driving requires a lot of mental juice, right? Especially if you are a professional, right? And even more especially if you're a long haulage, right, type of driver. Exhaustion is a real thing, right? The rage, of course, pushes these individuals to drinking and, of course, promiscuity. That's also a thing that drivers are facing. Why? Frustration, right? That is number 4. Number 5, money and speed, right? They say time is money. So there is a connection between money and speed, and the temptation is strong, right? Followed by or in connection to the other point, which is fuel economy, right? I wish I had a way to cross-check this to us to be sure, but what I would do is basically take up, for instance, in the case of Tanzania, EWURA announcements for the increase of prices of fuel, and I would correlate that data to the occurrences of road accidents, right, and to see if there is a connection, right? But by my theorem, I think there is. Right? If there is a connection between money and speed, then fuel economy plays also a role in the whole habits, or rather how drivers behave on the road, right? huge cars. That's another point. These are, from my experience, sometimes the most reckless, right? The ones that drive trucks and buses. Why? I don't know. The sense of security up high, you know, mix that with ego. You know, there are some people that should not be on front, should not have wheels. You know, they should have, they should be driving in sports, but they just find themselves doing community the driving and stuff, right, as a way to satisfy their itch. We have problems. Yeah. Of course, that would be point number 7. That would be point number 7, right? Number 8 would be document processing, right? I don't know how many times these drivers that I'm friends with have told me that point number 8 and number 9 are the main reasons why they spend a lot of time away from their families on the road, mostly, right? And this is documents, right? These cross-border documents or any related documents to haulage, right? The processing takes too long. And of course, loading and offloading is also a big issue. You wouldn't believe how long these people take waiting in queues, right? They use more time unloading and loading than actually on the road. It is too much, right? And these two issues can only be, I don't know, reconciled if the governments, right, work together to streamline the processes, right? Because that months sometimes, 2 months sometimes, you know, like what? Mm? And of course, the last but not least, because we shall cycle back to this at a later time, that being manufacturers, right? It's quite interesting that there isn't a button that will tell the vehicle do not produce, or rather do not go faster than this particular speed. I'm not talking about making noise, no. The car just not producing juice to exceed, right? They have these all processors and stuff, right? It's like they want people to make mistakes. Mm? So anyway, that is short and brief, isn't it? So yeah, I'm gonna put a pin on it right there, and we shall hear from each other when we hear from each other. It's easy. Signing out. Love you. Bye.